Hello guys, welcome to our channel. Today we start part 2 of the same story. If you like part 1 then don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Now start our story. Imagine my confusion when it's a picture of the cats both on the bed with her staring intently at the doorway, but the text reads, "Someone's in the basement, come home." Now I work so close to home that I couldn't even hit 60 miles per hour before I got to the driveway, but that didn't stop me from trying that night though. The house has two doors, the one in the front that we never used and the one in the back that we always used. The one in the back led into the house and into the basement, though, so I used the front door and I went into the room, quickly retrieved my .45 from the closet and told her to call the police. It was a short walk from the bedroom to the stairs to the basement, but the combination of fear and adrenaline made it feel like hours to get there. All the while I can hear this menacing racket downstairs. It sounded like someone was frantically searching for someone, or maybe an animal that got in there somehow and was desperately trying to escape. The commotion was just so intense that I could feel it in the floor. In fact, whatever was happening down there was super messed up, and I did not want to be dealing with this, but I finally made it to the upper landing, and the lights and the stairs in the basement were already on, so instantly the animal theory was dismissed for something much worse. I thought to myself that if there's a guy down there then I'm going to have to kill him, and this was definitely the worst nightmare scenario territory that I've ever been here. Suddenly though, the sound of a big shelf crashing to the ground breaks my concentration, and without even thinking I level my pistol down the hallway. I shouted, "Come out slowly with your hands up or I'm going to have to kill you." But my command was met with silence. Nothing, no sound. Maybe there was some sort of ambient noise, but my heart was beating so hard and fast that I couldn't hear anything else. Moment passes and there's literally no other exit but the stairs, so I decide that aggression is my only option. So I hurry down the stairs and begin clearing the basement, ready to pull slugs into anyone that I might find. But when I do, there's just no one. It's not a big basement, too, and there's really nowhere to hide. After a thorough sweep as well, I start noticing things, the weird things like, where's the mess, all that noise, but nothing's out of place. What about the shelf that I just heard crash to the floor, still up against the wall where it belonged? And when I say nothing, I mean absolutely nothing had been disturbed. I've never, ever felt so confused in my entire life. There's just no way, with what I just heard, that anything could have been intact down there, but here I was. And nothing. The adrenaline stabbed from my body and turned my legs to absolute jello, and I just sort of slumped against the wall, bewildered at the side of the basement, untouched. A couple of moments later and the police arrived. We all looked around in the basement and outside, but we couldn't find any sign of an intruder or an escape or anything. In the end, they tell us to call again if anything else happened. But it never did. As a matter of fact, I never experienced anything else ever again in that house. I did move out about a year later in 2010, so to this day I still have no explanation for what happened that night. I don't necessarily think that it was a ghost or anything. Like I said, I literally saw nothing, no voices, cold spots, no apparitions, nothing, but I definitely heard something impossible. So my friend Marissa and I hang out every now and then, and a couple of months ago I went to see the newest Star Wars movie with her and her new boyfriend John. Marissa's a nice girl and John was a pretty dorky but nice guy, but we talked about the movie after we saw it, and he got really into discussing it. Honestly, I didn't even get any bad vibes off of him for that short of time that we met, but a few months later I met up with Marissa and I ask if she's still dating John. She says no, and then tells me why, and this is what she says, almost forbade. Yeah, so me and John were just hanging out in my room one night, just watching a movie or whatever. I was looking at my phone, and out of the corner of my eye I see him fidgeting a lot, like really restless. He keeps shifting around and looking at me, so I ask him what's wrong. He doesn't want to tell me. He's like, nothing, but doesn't stop acting weird, so I call him out on it and ask him, "What's going on?" And then he says to me, "Listen, I have this fantasy about you. We'd had sex before, so I didn't think it was that weird, but then he said, I want to drag you out into the woods and tie you to a tree, then I want to rape you and cut off pieces of your flesh." He started breathing heavy when he said this, like just talking about it was turning him on or something, and this was literally days before we were supposed to go camping with my family, but I kicked him out right there and then, and I told him to never talk to me again. But for weeks after that I could see him driving past my house sometimes, and I was so scared that he was going to try and get me somewhere. Know that people have strange fetishes sometimes, but this wasn't something that he wanted to do with her. This was something that he wanted to do to her. Anyone who's seen any true crime media knows a good warning sign when they sleep, and I'm afraid that the next time that I see him might just be on the news. This happened around 10 years ago in the south of the UK. For reference, I'm a 28-year-old male, and at the time I was working part-time at a fuel station on a road which linked a small village to a ring road into the nearby city. The village itself was quiet, high-end, and extremely expensive to live in. It was the sort of place that only had one chain store, and it was a Waitrose. Everything else was either boutiques or privately owned gourmet grocers. So as someone who has always enjoyed cars, it was always fun to see what kind of high-end luxury sports cars would adorn the forecourt on any given day. And this is where I met Michael. Michael was in his late 40s, dark hair, well-dressed, always wore Gans or Ralph Lauren, or on his work days tailored suits, etc. He was an all-round nice guy, exceptionally polite, which was actually a rarity, as most of the residents of the surrounding area seemed to despise anyone who didn't qualify for the additional tax brackets. But we got chatting about his collection of vehicles or the watches that he wore. One day he'd always show up wearing some kind of Rolex and driving his Aston Martin, Range Rover, or Porsche, so there was always a lot to talk about. I got to know that he worked in finance, and the conversation got onto what I was planning to do with my life. I also wanted to work in finance, and we'd always have these pleasant conversations until I left that part-time job in favor for taking up an apprenticeship role in my uncle's brokerage. But Michael is important to the story, and we'll get to why shortly. So something to be known about my uncle is that he's a man with a lot of fingers and a lot of pies, almost literally. What I mean by this is that as well as his brokerage and property portfolio, he also owned a few takeaways for cash flow purposes. I think we all know what that means though, and as such I would occasionally step in as a delivery driver when a driver would let him down. Luckily my uncle also lived in the previously mentioned village, and the main pizza place he owned catered to the residents of said village, so tips were usually quite decent, and my uncle would usually throw me a few quid for helping out. Fast forward to summer of 2008 though, and I've been roped into dropping off a few pies at a property on an extremely prestigious road. Average house price here is, well, above 1.4 million, and I'm intrigued to actually get close enough to see what these houses actually look like, as they're all gated and set far back from the road behind a shroud of trees and shrubs. So I find the place and buzz the intercom when a voice comes back, sort of muffled, just saying yes. So I answered with the name of the takeaway, and the gates slowly open and I make my way up the driveway to a very large mock Georgian home, complete with detached 4-car garage. And that's when I see Michael's number plates. He had initials for his cars with the numbers 1, 2, and 3, and it was the same for his wife as well. I must admit I was interested to see how close the sort of life this guy had, if I'm completely honest, especially as a young aspiring financier. So I exited my car, brought out the pizzas, and the double doors opened, and that's when I saw a very unfamiliar face looking back at me. It was a man, early 20s, maybe, thin and shaved head. I can remember that he was wearing no shirt and some scruffy jeans and trainers. He was also holding something behind his back, "Hey, bring the pizzas through to the kitchen." I can remember his voice being hoarse and barely audible and with an accent that I'd never heard before. Nervously, I said nothing and I just looked at him, which made him sort of visibly angry. "Bring the pizzas through," he repeated, more aggressive this time, and I finally responded, "Where's Michael? This is Michael's place, right?" It was completely true that in situations like this your mouth goes completely dry, and to always follow your guts. This guy was setting off alarm bells and telling every fiber of my being to just get off this property. Unfortunately, this is when it dawned upon me that it's a gated property and I was actually locked in, and then things went from bad to worse. I distinctly remember the terror swelling up inside of me when he moved his hand in front of him to show me a large kitchen knife and uttered the words "run," and at that I dropped the pizza into the gravel, left my car, and decided that I'd have a better chance of survival by running down the driveway and lifting myself over the gates. They were the wooden types that had no decorative spears atop them, luckily, but all the while I could hear his feet crunching onto the gravel behind me. I didn't look back and managed to pull myself up and over the gates and hurling myself onto the pavement beneath me. The adrenaline in my system still had me running for what seemed like hours, but it was perhaps only 10 minutes at most until I was a good few streets away, and I decided that it was now time to call the police. Police met me at the park that I was hiding at. One officer stayed with me and the other proceeded onto the property along with another patrol car. At first I got the distinct impression that they didn't actually believe me or thought that I was up to something, but after my uncle arrived to pick me up and vouch for me being sent there to deliver pizza, the PC in question backed down. Upon their arrival at the property, they basically found nothing, just my car with slashed tires and broken windows alongside of feces being smeared across part of the kitchen. There was food strewn about the place and also a needle found in one of the bathrooms, but no sign of the man who threatened Michael and his family at the time. We're actually visiting family in Australia. I later found out I never did go back for another shift at the pizza place after that too, but after this I learned that wealth and apparent financial security is just completely illusory. People are just people, and there are some sick and tormented people out there who will always find a way to carry out their twisted actions. And if anything, I've had more encounters with crazy people since moving away from my council, the state routes, and into suburbia. There's a bit of a warning for you guys. This is going to be a very long one. I'll try to be as concise and organized as possible, but this is my third draft now, trying to tell this story as neatly as possible. There has been so many different events and there's lots of details to comb through, but the reason that I'm sharing this is to, well, share my experience, but I guess also to possibly seek advice. This has reached a bit of a breaking point that has left me scared and ready to possibly seek help, being a spiritual medium, an exorcist, or maybe even a psychologist. Whatever the case, I believe that something is harassing myself, my girlfriend, my house, my family, and very importantly, my children. I don't think that this is a passive being, and every time something new happens I believe more and more that this is possibly dangerous. But before I get ahead of myself, to give some backstory, I'm 26 and my girlfriend is 22. Her name is B&B and I have been friends for many years, but we've only been dating for a little over a year. Now I have children from a previously failed marriage. They visit on the weekends. After the divorce, I moved in with my parents to sort of restart and get back on my feet. I no longer live there obviously, but I found this information relevant as it is where most of the story takes place. I often travel for my job, and this is also relevant, but not until much later in the story. So to be frank, she sees things, she also hears things, and she has described many horrifying visions and sounds, and I knew that she had experienced this. And while I have also had my own experiences, I've never experienced anything like what she describes. I have never judged her for what she describes, and I've always kept an open mind. I do believe in the paranormal, but I also believe in people needing psychiatric help from time to time too. I've always thought that these experiences one or the other as well, but as for which one it's always been pretty irrelevant to me, to be honest. I mean, I'm here for her, and when the time comes that things reach a boiling point, I'm going to continue to be there for her too. It did not take long after we started dating for me to also share some of her experiences. They started off very simple, if that's the right word, and sort of easy to brush off, and not feeling right in certain parts of the house was pretty common. Feeling watched, seeing a shadow in sort of the peripheral of my vision. These are the kinds of things that we naturally write off as tricks of the imagination, just stress or what have you, even though we have both seen it at the same time. She says that the things that she usually sees are not of great detail. If she was to observe them, she would never be able to make out the details nor make sense of the words that she hears. There's no facial details, clothing, anything of that nature. I don't know if this just means that they're pure black or if they're more of a blur or something. I'm not too sure, but she says that there are two exceptions, though, two things that she has seen repeatedly throughout her life, and they are the only two things that she's ever been able to make details out of. She refers to them as the tubman and the nose guy. I has seen in several houses, a childhood home, a friend's house, and others. She describes him as sort of being skinny and lanky and wearing red shoes. She's never seen his top half too well, or his face, because whenever she sees him he's already halfway in the tub. That's it. She'll see him crawling from the floor into the tub as if he was a spider or something, and she always catches those red shoes of his too. I want to say that she said that he's in normal clothes, but I can't say that for certain. The shoes, though, are what stand out the most. The nose man, on the other hand, she is only seen in her childhood, and he's not so much a man as he is just a nose. I know it sounds silly, like some sort of a Cronenberg monster, a giant fleshy nosed man that just looks at her and watches her. If he even has eyes, I'm not sure, but now I know that this may not seem that relevant, but trust me, I've tried to leave out any details that I find irrelevant, and now I'm going to delve into our experiences together. So, when you enter my parents' house, there's this living room sort of immediately in front, the kitchen to your left through the pathway with the pantry and the garage door, and stairs to your right. So left kitchen, front living room, right stairs going up, and stairs going down. Upstairs is my sister's room and my parents' room, and downstairs is another sort of small living space, I guess a bathroom, and also what became mine and B's room. I'm going to mostly skip over all of the smaller experiences of us not feeling right in that smaller living space downstairs, but to be brief, until we had moved in, it had went mostly unused, and shortly after we had moved in I had realized that I really didn't like one particular corner of this room, and neither did B. But there were a lot of times where we would find the lights on in closets downstairs when nobody was home, or in the middle of the night, to sometimes when we would pass by to go to the bathroom, we would feel like something was rushing at us. But the first real experience for both of us that I can remember anyway that really had us freaked out was while she was using the bathroom. So I was in the bedroom, which is directly next to the bathroom, lying in bed on my phone. It was about midday, I would guess, and she had come back into the bedroom and asked what I wanted. I wasn't sure what she meant by that and had asked her to explain, and she had said that I was knocking on the bathroom door and was also asking to come, and she had said that it was locked and that she had asked me to wait. I had assured her that it was definitely not me and that I would have heard someone knocking at the door, but she seemed a little bit frazzled by that and had assured me that it was definitely my voice. Jumped to us both showering one day, and we had wrapped up and gotten dressed in the bathroom. She went to leave and said something is holding the door shut. I was obviously in disbelief, so I came over and turned the handle firmly but slowly and opened the door. It barely had cracked open too before, and I swear on my life the handle very firmly twisted the other way in my hand and then pulled shut. I immediately swung the door open and rushed out of the bathroom to confront whoever this was, but of course there was nobody there. This is almost a year ago now. But if I'm trying to keep a sort of chronological order, I believe this is what happened. Next, I was off at work and she was still in bed. She had heard my computer chair creaking multiple times. She felt like somebody was in the room and had pulled the blanket up over her head a bit and taken a peek, and she later described to me that a pale and gaunt woman was sitting in my chair, just smiling and staring at her. I don't remember if she said that there was something unnatural about her smile, but I believed that it seemed like a large smile from memory. But she also had eyes not blank, not black. I don't recall what color her eyes were, as I'm colorblind, and that detail didn't stick out with me, but my ears work and my eyes don't regardless. Though I don't remember, though, if I recall correctly, her hair was not black and it was a lighter color, such as blonde or soft brown or something long and sort of wispy. I wish that I had asked more about this woman, to be honest, such as what was she wearing or any descriptive features, but she seemed very stressed out by this particular incident, so I didn't push for any more details, the reason this stressed her out so bad. Okay, that's enough for today, guys. I hope you like this story. If you like this story, then like and subscribe to our channel. We meet you in part 2 of the same story. Have fun, guys. Bye.